I'm going to get to the welcome in just a second, but we have a very special guest on our view screen tonight, making her return to Strange New Pod. Jessie Gender, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here to talk about this episode. I'm very, very pumped. This is going to be a lot of fun.
I'm happy that this is the episode that you're joining us for, because yes, Ro.
Yeah,
We're saying
well,
it, Ro.
I think this was the episode that I think I said this would be the one that I would love to be on. Right?
I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it was. Yeah,
because this is easily my favorite of the season so far for
Yeah.
very obvious reasons.
Nice.
So
Yep. How's everybody else doing? We good? Everybody happy? Everybody doing well?
It looks like I'm
Good?
promoting
Well, not
my
happy.
filament.
I mean,
What does it look like? Oh, I didn't know what that was. You didn't need to turn it. What was that?
That was weird.
What was that?
It's a box of filament, but it was like the logo is right there. I was like, I'm not.
Oh, I
promoting
mean,
that.
it's not an advertisement. It's fine. Before we get into our show, Jessie, you and I talked. It was a couple months ago now. I have to imagine.
Yeah.
Big announcement that you made last week. Yeah, I'm so stoked. You announced your short film. Is it Identities, right? Or
Identities, yep.
Identities,
Yep.
which is a Sci-Fi Nebula original film, and I want you to tell us all about it, because I'm super stoked for you in this.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I originally reached out to you because this month was going to be the month where I was going to be kickstarting Identities, because I was hoping to get it made, and it's a project that I have been working on for a really long time. It started off years ago as basically a short story that I wrote for myself that was about me talking about two different parts of myself in terms of the person who I wanted to be, in terms of my transition as a trans person, and as the person who I thought I had to be, this person I would never live up to. And it kind of was like this very nebulous, kind of strange thing. But it's kind of like stuck in my mind for a really long time. And recently, I've been thinking a lot about our futures, our digital universes, thinking about video games and how artificial worlds kind of reveal the artifice of our society. Like, we create video games and digital worlds, and we start to code in the very assumptions about the universe that we exist in that aren't really real. They're just as artificial as anything else. But like our assumptions about gender, we don't need to have like binary gender being displayed in a video game, and yet we put that in there anyways. And what is that? And so we're literally coding in our own biases and presumptions about the world into games, but that really reveals like the artifice of what we built in our society today. But digital worlds sort of reveal that even more so. So the short film is quite literally going to be about how we continue down that path of, as we have more and more fall into this digital metaverse, digital futures that we have, how are we going to be able to express ourselves and the fullness of who humanity is as we start to have more of a kind of capitalistic world in this digital landscape? And so the way I kind of pitched the film is it's Matrix meets Severance, where it's about a digital future, but where it's been over corporatized and over capitalized. And how do we, as a non-binary person specifically, express being non-binary when it only offers these certain choices that we are able to be? But I hope that it's going to be a film that goes beyond just being non-binary, because I want it to be showcasing how people of anywhere have to live up to these avatars that we're told to be. Like, even cis straight white dudes, they load into a video game and they see this plain avatar that's like the starting avatar, all the sliders down to zero, and that in and of itself is oppressive in a way of you're trying to live up to this version of manhood and selfhood that you're never actually going to be. And so the film, I want it to be about like how we all are just viewed as cogs in a machine for other people's imaginations, other people's realities, rather than being full for ourselves. So that's the pitch of the short film. I hope it's going to be fun. I have some cool mysteries in there. I think it's going to be, it's also it's not just heavy ideas. It's hopefully going to be very comedic. Me, I'm very irreverent and like to make fun of things. But the other element of it too that is really cool that I can reveal right now is the person I'm working on it with is my producer is Dr. Erin McDonald.
Yay, she's
who-
awesome.
She's the best human I have ever had the chance to work with. And if for listeners, you probably all know her. If you don't know her, you know her work because she is the science advisor on Star Trek. But she is also a producer. She also has her own short film. She also has her own production company that is very focused on centering stories of queer people, of women, and BIPOC folks, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera. So quite literally, my past few weeks have been meeting after meeting after meeting with her and other people as we've been casting this thing, getting directors of photography, and they have all been queer people, people of color, trans folks, women, and that is the aim to have, if not 100%, very close to 100% queer, BIPOC women and trans folks in front of the camera and behind it as well. And I cannot reveal a lot about the cast yet, but I will just say some of the people that we are talking to and have pretty definitively set down, nerds should be excited about, and that's what I'll leave it there as.
I remember when you and I were talking and planning this out, when you said Matrix meets Severance to me, I was just like, I'm in. I love that idea just so much. So just absolutely excited for you. One of our members, Tara, said, "What a coup, Jesse, for getting Dr. Erin McDonald," which is just it's awesome. She's amazing.
Well, I'm honestly excited to be working with her because I met her at Mission Chicago, and she was working on her other film that she made, which is Every Morning with Mary Chieffo of Star Trek Discovery fame, and also Terry Farrell's also in it, Jadzia Dax herself, and that is a queer time loop story, and she was just so passionate about like making cool stories that like aligned with like the stories that I want to tell that are like queer focused, but not just about being queer, but about like science fiction fun stuff that we all enjoy and bigger ideas beyond that. That it's not just pigeonholing queer people. And she's just been absolutely amazing. Like we literally just had a meeting today where we like talked about directors of photography, and then we ended up just like ranting about Bo-Katan armor from Mandalorian. So it's just like
There
she's
she
the
is.
best person.
There she is.
Exactly. So she's like the best person to work with. And the other element of this too is, is I'm sure you've seen, like I've had to deal with like a lot of like really terrible and horrible videos that I've had to make and subjects that I've had to take on and shitty things. And the world is feeling that way a lot right now, and we do need to push back against it. I'm glad that I'm able to do that work. But to be frank, it's been a real mental health drain. And since announcing this thing and since like going full steam ahead with her and working on this thing, it has been an absolute just like joy to have something that feels like it's pushing back against hateful stuff, that it's saying something meaningful, and yet is about a celebration and a joyous thing and making something cool. And that you have no idea how much that has been an absolute boon to like my mental health and just get an excitement at the
I
world.
can imagine. I can absolutely imagine. And just ridiculously proud of you too. This is just so fucking awesome. So congrats.
I hope you all like it when it's done. Cause I'm just excited to make it. So
yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we can't wait to see it. I'm so stoked for you. I've wanted to make movies before, and just like thinking about making movies like gets me excited. So I can only imagine what you're feeling. So
it's cool. It's wild. I don't want to hold this on too long because we want
no,
to
it's okay.
Trek,
yeah.
but it's just like I literally was talking with the director of photography and today, and you like start talking about shots. I'm like, I'm actually doing the thing. We're talking about shots right now, and it's just like it's this cool part where we're at right now, where it's like we're casting and we're building up crew, and it's like this thing that's in my head. It's now like I get to like kind of not build the puzzle yet, but like get the puzzle pieces out and like figuring out who goes where and who fits where. And like when we hear like I've heard like casting choice fell through, and then again, no spoilers on stuff, but like Aaron suggested like what about this person? I'm like, that person is not who I would have thought for this, but that brings an interesting energy that like changes my idea of the character. It's like that sort of conversation that's like that's just fun to do, and I adore it. It's like why I love doing creative stuff. So
nice. So cool. So excited when it's getting closer, and when you can give us more This is obviously later down the line, but we will need to have you back to get into all the juicy details because we want to hear about it. But you are sticking with us tonight to talk.
Yeah, no, bye. I did my thing, promote my thing.
Yep.
I'm out. See ya.
No, bye. See ya. No, damn it. You're going to talk about this episode.
You're going to make me talk Star Trek. How
Gonna
dare
make
you?
you. Oh, such a shame. You are going to stick with us to talk about Imposters tonight, which arguably one of the best episodes of this season of Picard so far. Usually I go into what's happening this week. Y'all already know. I've seen your mailbags. Ro's back. Jack goes crazy. Bev does some investigating. There's a Vulcan fucking gangster. We're getting into this. We're doing it. Before we do, very, very quickly, we need to thank our amazing patron collective at the Ready Room level and above. Hawk, can you hit that for me, please?
Absolutely. Thank you to Jeff Reeve, Mariah Gossett, Tallulah, Jen Stein, Tina Alexander, Joe Saporito, Noe Santos, Kang Wee, Takako Nagumo, Kara Kennedy, Mark, Fernanda Nogales, SMK, Laura Linderman, Colin Davidson, Alan Davis, Shatterhand 2049, Jesco, Michael Graham, Emily and Travis, Gildara, Cassie, Hawk is King Friday, and hey, I am no man's puppet. Thank you.
It only took you a week to get the reference, Hawk.
I know. Maggie, like, pick a better name for your son.
Oh, God.
Wayne Ritz, Scone of Art, Sean, Jay Howard, Mahalani Uchiyama, Matt Harker, Joshua Lewis, Cassie McIntosh, David Willett, Tara Pollen, Slope 74, Rude Parakeet, Alex Sharkey, Joshua Miller, Adam Sanders, Amy the Magic Snail, and Aris Spengen.
Yay!
Woo!
You guys all rock. That list is just getting bigger and bigger every day.
It looks like we got 5 more since I was last on.
We did. We got 5 more since you were last on. So
That's
you are not
incredible.
crazy. Yeah. So we love you all. We cannot do this without you. You rock. Also, very quickly, a big thank you to our executive producers, Chris Todd and Simon Stager. You guys also freaking rock. Quick news, MC. I know that you're even more excited about this than me, so I'm gonna let you take the quick news real quick.
So first of all, Julian's going to be on Open Pike Night, where you're going to be talking about the original Star Trek pilot,
The one
Cage.
that's really sexist. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes. And this weekend, I'm going to be filming Trexpert Quiz. So I will be the most recent member of the pod to be on Trexpert Quiz, and that episode's going to go up on Friday. So I'm going to be using my knowledge to bring pride to the pod rather than frustrating Julian and making him fire me.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you don't get over 20 points, you're fucking fired. So, no, I'm kidding. I would not fire you today. Maybe tomorrow.
No matter what, you are going to have a blast on that show.
It is so fun. Davey's in the chat. He doesn't. Trexpert's Quiz is fun. If you haven't done it, I'm going to plug his show for him.
Mm-hmm.
Send an email to him if you want to have a go at being a Trexpert, because it's
I
really
would
fun.
like to send me an email. I'll take on that challenge.
Do it, Jesse.
Yes,
I think
Yes.
Davey would.
Oh, I want to
love
see that episode.
Yeah. Julian, you're fired, and that has to do with I will read it, but I need the details. Like, Starfleet Underground. Very, very quickly, they lost their Star Trek podcast. They lost one of their members suddenly. I think his name is Rocky, if I'm not mistaken. If somebody can please help me out in the chat with that. Just want to send our condolences to them very quickly. And there is a GoFundMe going for funeral costs. I think we'll post a link in Discord. So our condolences. It always sucks losing a member of the Trek community. So thoughts are with you, of course. It is Star Trek, and it is about boldly going, and we are going to review this one. It is a hell of an episode. There's no strange new loop because this episode is too rich to not talk about fully. Even though, as I admitted off mic, MC, I almost forgot to put in Vulcan Gangster Man, which would have been just awful.
It would have been. I would have been pissed off.
I think I would have gotten thrown off my show. So, it's just, we are reviewing Imposters. That is episode 305 of Star Trek Picard. And our roundtable order tonight will go, of course, with our guest, Jessie, then Eric, Hawk, followed by MC and myself. Let's talk about Jack. Jacked up. He's jacked up. Been avoiding the subject, as has been pointed out the past few weeks, because the mystery behind his visions really comes to a head this week, though, and it's important to talk about. So it starts with him daydreaming about killing the entire bridge crew. And someone was watching this episode late in our chat and was like, no, they didn't. Because Picard has proven that they could.
Nope. No one's safe.
They might have, but they didn't. It was a daydream. Later on, he also dreams about killing the transporter chief. And then finally, near the end of the episode, after the set of changelings that was Ro's escort beams back aboard the Titan, they try to take Jack alive. And I'm getting, there's so much to talk about here, but they say something very interesting to him, very calmly. We're attaching a transporter beacon to take you away. Like, he knows that they're coming for him. So put that in the back of your minds. Something snaps in Jack, like conditioning, right, is what it seems like. He goes all execution John Wick style, kills all 4 changelings, and then later he and Bev have a convo, right, about this, and where Jack Teller thinks there's something really, really wrong with him. So many things it could be. What do you think it is? What thoughts are going through your mind when you're seeing all this, Jessie? And of course, sorry, Jessie, right before you go, YouTube, please let us know your thoughts as well. We want to know what's going through your minds. But Jessie, what's going on here?
I'm really curious about this. I mean, first thing I should say, the visuals in this were really cool. I love the red vine stuff, and then also the teleporter like moment where like they start beaming away, and then the vines like come through the teleporter. Like, VFX team deserves some credit because that looked so wild. I loved it. I'm unsure. Like, there's a bunch of different things that I think it could be. My first inclination was like, he's a changeling but doesn't know it, but that doesn't really seem to like add up too much, because it's sort of like, why would he see red vines? I don't really know what the connection there is. The other, I'm like trying to think of like other things that it possibly could be. I know like Terry Metalis was like playing up the conspiracy aliens a little bit on Twitter, so I'm like, maybe,
but then he said it
like
wasn't, and I'm like,
yeah,
you gotta go one way, man.
Yeah, so what are you doing, man? The other like random one that I was thinking of, but it's just, and it's because it's been brought up a few times already this season, is Borg potentially.
Yes,
he is the son of Picard, so there might be some Borg inclinations. And the reason I'm thinking that is a possibility is the opening of the season was quite literally Jack listening to the monologue from Best of Both Worlds. If you recall,
in episode
when we're seeing way back in episode 1, where we're going through all of the like little Easter eggy stuff on Beverly Crusher's ship, we hear the like the captain's log from Best of Both Worlds. And I'm like, that could have just been a nice little Easter eggy moment, but it could have been an actual like long thread allusion to the Borg. I'm trying to think if there was something else too that also where it came. Oh, well, with Shaw as well last episode. So like there's that's more like a trauma moment, but there is sort of a reiteration of Picard's like history with the Borg. And so, you know, that's a good thing for Shaw as a character, and it reveals a lot about him. But there's also a good moment for the show to like reiterate that about Picard, so that it's fresh in our minds if there is a Borg reveal. So just thinking from like a writer perspective, that sort of like is a nice like thing to tie it all together. So that's if I had to take a guess, that's my one. I saw some other people throwing out Pa Wraith, which would be interesting, especially given that we're changelings. My only concern with that, and I would actually really like that. My only concern with that is like, if they did that, then I feel like they would have to like bring in Cisco. And if it's cool, and I am so here for Cisco, but I kind of feel Avery Brooks isn't coming back, especially because they're doing that Star Trek comic book, which they're saying is canon, which brought back Cisco already. So I'm kind of feeling like they're like, yeah, we're not really going to do Cisco in live action. If they did, I would flip out. But that's the one reason that I'm kind of feeling it's probably not that.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the Pa Wraith talk. I'm not there. I think to go with what you were saying very quickly with the changeling thing, I just think that him being a changeling And obviously it could still go that way, but I think it just wouldn't work with the current narrative that they've set.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
So
That's my initial thought of what it was, just based on where we're in the story. But then when you sit and think about it, it's like it doesn't really fit unless like something extra and wonky is going on.
yeah, absolutely. Eric.
So you put the non-serious person after Jesse, is what you're saying?
Yes.
That's fair.
I'm gonna go non-serious. No, I am gonna go serious, but with a
I'm
funny
gonna go
twist.
serious.
It's
too.
the salamanders from the Delta Quadrant. They're coming back.
God damn it.
everybody.
That's it.
As soon as Jesse started talking about the Borg, and I was sitting here thinking to myself, I was like, let's get rid of that Wednesday's sticker, and I'm gonna make a little sperm and make it assimilated, and we're just gonna send that out as the next sticker. I
Oh,
think-
y'all haven't seen the beheading sticker yet, though. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. It's based on a metal poster. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite things is Jack's whole, his whole mystery, because I love River Tam from Firefly and Serenity, and this has shades of it all over it. Like his fight at the end when he killed those four changelings.
Yeah.
Totally remind me of the beginning of Serenity, the movie, when she just goes off in the bar, and I was sitting there like, oh my god, it's Jason Bourne. No, but then there's always the eyes, but that could also be like not literally his eyes changing. It could be something like it's a metaphor for his whatever he's seeing in front of him. And I love the idea of all this red imagery. It's very supernatural, like the red eyes, the visions that are paralleling the red design. Like it's everything I love in the fantasy sci-fi supernatural world that has been on TV for the past like 20 years, and is all wrapped in this nice little Aragorn package. He was the lead in Aragorn. If that didn't
The Dragon movie.
I didn't know.
the Dragon movie, yeah. The terrible
I didn't
Dragon
know
movie.
that.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Other than that, like it's interesting that Ro knows that at least through her research that he's been targeted specifically by the changelings, and that it's like it's so important on their list, especially what we saw last week with Vadic. And Vadic? Yeah.
Vadic, yeah.
And they're like, no, go in after him. He's more important than your whole ship. Like that's not just some little thing. Like,
which, looking back on that though, like you can't bring him back if your ship's blown up.
it's true. It's true. But I guess it's just like we can't put him out to chance, right?
Yeah.
And if he's maybe Beverly did like they have a lot of religious allegories in this show as well. So maybe he's like a Moses baby, and he was found by Beverly, and he just ended up saying that it's Picard's child. Maybe he found it, and
that would just be really fucked up for
it would be really
Jean-Luc,
fucked up,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true, but the show has done fucked up.
Yes.
So I don't know. Like I'm hoping they go the River Tam way. Like maybe there's some sort of conditioning that happened for him at school. Maybe like we don't know what really happened. And although I guess they said the nightmare thing when he was a kid, but who knows if this was related?
Yeah.
I'm just curious how what the changelings seem to know about it. Like that's what's throwing me. Yeah.
And that he's so important that they need him for
Yeah.
some future ploy, unless he's like related to like the cloning stuff that they did in Nemesis.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Hawk, as is tradition, I'm going to interrupt you before you go because I have to read Davy's comment in the chat. Davy thinks that Jack is the caretaker's pissed off cousin, and I'm here for that. I love that.
Banjo Man strikes again.
Yep. Yep. Oh man, I would low key maybe be on board with that. Probably not. I do love it though. Hawk.
To be honest, I don't have anything of that original in that, and everybody's been discussing this, like, all the aspects involved with this. Is he a changeling? I don't think he's a changeling, but I do think he is somehow connected to the Great Link. Considering like what the red tendrils and the voices and that he hears, and that I think that's the Great Link calling out to him, to rejoin.
Apparently, people said in their chat that the subtitles said that the voices he was hearing, it was subtitled Beverly.
Really?
It sounded like Bev.
I didn't. Yeah,
Hmm.
I didn't.
I saw
think
that too. In fact, I actually have that pulled up here on my screen. The subtitles say Beverly's voice at the end there.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
so
weird.
it's so weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
To continue though, I don't think you know how he's seeing this red door in the vision as well. I don't necessarily feel the red door is connected to the tendrils that he's seeing in that. It's almost like that is separate from it, like almost like a way out for him. And I'm trying to think of the significance of the red door. I went on Google and that I was trying to figure it out. So far, from what I understand is a red painted door like the one we saw in the old American tradition. And that a red painted door was a sign for anybody on horse or buggy, and that this house was a place of sanctuary, and that someplace that they could get off the road to. But then, like, if you look if we're going the religious context, and that a red door refers to Exodus 12, and the blood of the lamb put on the door, and that to as a seal of protection against something. So that's significant. I'm not sure how, but it's very significant. I don't know why.
I just
He's a
had
Moses baby.
I had a random thought that goes off of my thing, but I want to give MC a chance to speak. But I just am like, ooh, that might be interesting.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but the wild pitch. I'm just gonna swing for the fences and try and see how this goes. But what if we've seen that these changelings are like they're a rogue faction. They seem to be like we have like little clicky people that Vadic works for, and so there's like this like are they able to like really connect? Are they cut off from each other? What if Jack is connected to the Borg? What if he is like a way for them to try to recreate a great link because they've been unable to link with each other, and so they're going to use the collective and Borg stuff try to link together to recreate their own version of the great link.
There's something I want to say right now too, and I can't.
Like Borg changeling is like what we're gonna get. That's my swing for the fences pitch.
Pretty damn good though.
It's pretty damn good. MC, top that. Kidding.
sorry, MC.
It's no, honestly, like seeing all those vines, I was immediately like, is Jack working for the Mind Flayer from Stranger Things? And there's just so many ways that it can go. Like, I do think that some sort of sleeper agent Manchurian candidate work with the changelings might be happening, but the fact that mentioning that it was Bev's voice in the vision, because I thought that I had heard that. So the whole find me being Bev, it's like, well, what if Jack's not the problem? What if Bev is?
Ooh.
So there could be like some sort of like basically Bev being his handler in all of this, and Bev is the cause of all of these visions happening. I can't top what Jessie said, but I can at least throw out something different.
But I have seen some people with that same, maybe that's not Beverly, and maybe that's not Jack Crusher. Like maybe this is these are changelings who have this great backstory to give Jean-Luc to get to Jean-Luc, because Bev does say, kind of hints like, I don't think this is about him. I think it's about you. And I think episode 2 or 3. So it's a good theory.
Have we seen Beverly get hurt yet?
Yes, in the first episode. But that could have been a ruse.
I think after this episode that the whole changelings can't get hurt thing, we really can't base anything on that.
No, you can't. I listen, I know, Eric, you kind of joked about it earlier, but I mentioned it in the chat today. Listen, 7 of 9 we know has dormant nanites. Jean-Luc Picard, not this one because he's a golem. We don't talk about that. But his human body, who he would have had sex with Beverly with, did have no, come on, I'm a romantic.
Just joking.
Did have dormant nanites, and I assume that they are everywhere in your body and that they could have been passed through a sperm. So I think that the Borg theory actually has a lot of merit. Like, I really do.
God, little Borg sperm.
Little Borg sperms. It's
Little
funny as
Borg
fuck,
sperm.
but
You'll
like
be assimilated as they go. Sorry, I just to fertilize the egg.
brings a whole new definition of sex ed.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh boy. But I'm kind of on board. I'm kind of on Borg with the Borg theory. Oh god. I make that one too much.
Get off my bridge.
I'm more on board for that than I am the Paul Wraith theory, because
I
as
am
much
too.
as I would love the Paul Wraiths to come back, it is like we've already got changelings, but like I don't want any more DS9 elements without more DS9 characters than just Worf.
That's yeah.
And it would feel like a hat on a hat at this point. At least the Borg stuff is already like baked into Picard, so it doesn't feel weird to bring it up again.
And
Yeah,
Kenny
if we
Hudson.
got,
I'm
like-
sorry, Jesse. Go ahead.
Oh no, go. Yeah.
I was
I was just gonna say. Oh, you go.
Real quick in the YouTube chat, damn, this might answer a question. Kenny Hudson writes, I've always wondered, could the Borg assimilate a changeling? My view is no. The changeling would morph into something the Borg could ever even touch, like a cloud. But that could be different now.
But if they're trying to use Borg tech, then that might be they're failing.
Yeah.
That, like you couldn't assimilate a changeling, but if they wish to be assimilated, they could.
Yeah.
The other what was I saying? Yeah, I was just gonna agree with MC about like I'm not against the Paw Wraith or like the prophets being in this show, but if that was the case, I would want more like Deep Space Nine characters, and that doesn't really seem like what the show is. Like I'm still fingers crossing for an Ezri Dax appearance at some point. Like she just shows up on like on Fleet Day, she shows up as like a captain. And she's like, hey, I'm here, and I'll be like, yeah, but I feel like that's more of like a nice little cameo, not a like
It would
like,
be
it becomes what the show
really
is
cool
about.
to have Captain Ezri Dax of the USS Aventine as like a nice little last nod to the books. That would be really
like she
cool.
shows up for like she's on in the finale or the penultimate episode when all, but like I'm sure we're gonna get to that day where like the fleet's all together and things all gonna go, like I'm sure that's like the finale or close to it. It's like, oh shoot, the changelings are gonna screw with the entire fleet of Starfleet. And then it's like, oh, Ezri's one of them or something like that. So
we will see. Lots of good theories, lots of great theories in the chat. The chat's hopping. Keep it coming tonight, guys.
Definitely.
Let's talk about the Ro of it all.
Mhm.
Okay, because I cried a lot when I watched this with my screener. I cried a lot. So the beginning of this episode, Titan's command is given back to Shaw as the USS Intrepid, which is a really cool ship design, by the way, arrives with Starfleet intelligence to interrogate Picard and Riker. That officer doing the interrogation is none other than Commander Ro Laren. Still get goosebumps saying that. Someone Jean-Luc is not happy to see. We know why if you've seen
Preemptive strike.
Thank you so much. I've been saying it all day and then forgot it now. And any of her arc, right? Ensign Ro, of course, just so good. What did we think about this of all things? We knew that there were gonna be, new old faces showing up, but what do we think about this reveal and then the back and forth between the two being so suspicious of one another, Jesse?
I adored this. I have a caveat or more of like a discussion point, but on the whole, this was amazing. What I loved most about this is it allowed us to get a resolution to a story that I've been wanting to get a resolution to for so long. Like that was just one of the great unanswered or unfinished storylines that we had all hoped would come up one day. Maybe Ro would have appeared in Deep Space Nine at some point. She never did, even though I know she's supposed to be a main cast member. She still could show up as like a Maquis on that show. We never got a resolution there. We never got in any movies. So this is just one of those, like, I kind of had just settled myself, like, we're never going to get a resolution to Ro's story. It's just never going to happen. And so to see her show up here, it was just so wonderful. And finally, like, get that confrontation between her and Picard. I think that just so much their discussion in the holodeck felt very real and felt very true about two people who had been hurt and had good points. It kind of reminded me of the scene a few episodes ago where it was like Picard and Beverly's having discussions where like they're both hurt. They both hurt each other. And you can kind of understand why they both felt the way that they did. And you could maybe agree with one over the other. but you certainly can empathize with both of them, and no one is clearly right or wrong. And I thought that did it so well. But what I loved more about this is that it used that story and layered it in with like the conspiracy thriller that we have going on right now, like Trust Nobody, and it made the fact that there's this conflict between these two about this trust that was broken part of the story of like they have to rebuild trust because that's what they have to deal with now. So in an era where they cannot trust anybody, they don't trust each other, they have to trust each other. And I thought that was just such a clever way to bring in, because it would be very easy to have just like brought in a character and said, oh, we're gonna have her appear, we're gonna end this storyline, but it's not really anything to do with the plot. But it's like, no, it makes their both plot arc and emotional arc connect with what's actually going on with the entire plot of the season in a way that isn't just helping it, it's actually at odds with it, and I think in a really clever way. So I just thought that this was, if we weren't going to do a story that was especially about Ro, this is the best way they could have done it, and I was so pleased with it. My only, and it's not even like a knock, it's more just I think there's a discussion to be had, and I think it goes to a larger issue that I have with the season a little bit right now, is the fact that she was fridged at the end. Right. And fridging is not just killing a female character, it's killing a female character for a male character's arc. And that is definitely happens for both. She dies so that Shaw's convinced that they need to escape, and also so Picard can sort of have that, like motivation going. It's like, this is personal now. So there's a bit of a fridging, and I'm on the side of like, there are some tropes that I think are harmful, like bury your gaze. And there are some tropes that I am more open to, like sometimes you just have to use a trope to be able to tell the story. This is one where like, I think it generally leans in the sexist one, but I can see an argument for it. And I'm fine with it here to a degree. I'm more forgiving of it. My only issue with it is, and again, I've been loving this season. I hope that's been very clear. But one thing I've noticed is just a little bit of the writing of the women in the season. Beverly, she's kind of still relegated to like mother character, like that's her main position this season. And also like there's that sort of like she gets to be a strong badass for a scene, which I loved, but it is sometimes that like thing we see with like writers writing women where it's like either they're a mother or we're gonna go the other way where they can kick ass, but there's no in between or nuance to that. Yeah. And then we've only
talked
had
about that.
Yeah. Then like Marina Sirtis, like she's been in a couple scenes and mostly defined as a mother or her relationship to Riker. 7 of 9, I think, is the only one that's kind of escaped that a little bit. Kind of, she has her own stuff, which is good. But it's just that's kind of just a recurrent theme that I'm like, there's the women in this show have not been written badly. This isn't like the worst I've ever seen or anything like that. But it's just like I do see recurring, like sort of more tropey roles for women in this season so far. That again, not hating on, but I have thoughts on.
They need to have more. They need to do more. We got like a glimpse of it this episode with Bev, and we're going to talk about her. But still, it's like you need so that more.
Bridging of Ro kind of slots into that to a degree, that in a way that's like a little bit disappointing. But that being said, on the whole, loved this Ro stuff. I thought it was excellent.
Eric?
Yeah, 100%. I agree with everything Jessie just said. So I don't need that anymore, right? No. Like,
and Raffi too. I should say Raffi. People said in the chat. Raffi's had some good stuff too. So be clear.
This is my favorite part of this whole episode, because the relationship between Ro and Picard was so personal in TNG, and to see them come back together, and we knew that he was hurt when she left. To see that hurt grow for 30 years into that not final confrontation, but that conversation at 10 Forward was beautiful. The only thing that would have made it better for me is if that holodeck was set to the Enterprise D. That would have killed me. Like I would have just bawled more than I already did. Man, when Picard said, "I've been rehearsing this speech for 30 years," and then tells her that he loved her and that she broke his heart, and she said it back to him. Like it gives me goosebumps now just thinking about it, because you can see these two amazing actors have that love and that pain, and they're just going off of each other, and you can feel it both. And when they realize that they're both real people, but
and that they both did something to hurt each other so badly,
that they had to go through this pain to get through. Like it's a beautiful ride, but it was an incredibly painful one. I love Ro Laren in general, and when she talks about her backstory, about how she went to prison, she did her time, and how everything felt earned by what she did. Like she started TNG fighting, like she was such a kick-ass character, and by the end of this, she goes out fighting. And I couldn't, like, it sucks that she had to go, but halfway through this season, this makes things personal. Like Jesse said, this makes things personal for Picard. Like he had just reconciled with this person that he had respected such a long time. It was a daughter figure for him, one that, you know, broke his heart. And
Kevin Richardson just said that in the chat. I wish Jean-Luc had said I love you to Laren because he finally realized she was his, you know, basically surrogate daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even though he did end up putting all of his hopes and dreams, which sometimes fathers do, into their children.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to.
Very much so.
As a dad.
Yeah.
I love that she's the one that ended up being the person that's sort of spearheading this fight against the changelings. Yeah. I think out of everyone, if it wasn't Janeway, if it wasn't someone from DS9, I could totally see her being the one that's smart enough and that has the gumption to do it.
Yeah.
And that she knew the people to go to. And man, I want to see more from her, but I can't.
Nope.
You can in the new Star Trek Defiant comic, which she's starring in, which is pretty cool.
At first,
fair enough.
I've been waiting for the trade.
First
like,
issue just
collection.
came out today. It was I really liked it. I liked it better than the first 5 issues of the ongoing one with Cisco.
Interesting.
Really
interesting.
Yep.
Right.
Well, first up to Julian, Eric, Jesse, the ones who saw the advanced trailers. Kudos. I had no idea. the screeners. I had no idea.
Of all of the things, this has been the hardest to not talk about.
Oh yeah, yep. I've been wanting this. I've been like waiting for this episode to release to be like, oh my god, finally.
Yeah. You know, and like in a season that has just shocked and surprised me beyond belief already, in that, like, we get, you know, Ro Laren back for one more episode in that, and a reunion for Picard and her, you know, which is like, and they both anticipated and dreaded. Yeah, as Eric mentioned in that, he'd been practicing in that, but he brushed up on his Bajoran just to be able to, like, you know, really emphasize his feelings about what she did, you know, what he feels she did to him, and that in leaving Starfleet, and that, even though, like, at the time, like, you know, we could all kind of sympathize with her in that, because I guess Picard, like, really didn't know the entire situation behind that. You know, it's like what really prompted her in that to abandon Starfleet and rejoin the Maquis was the death of, like, another father figure in her life. What was it, Mackenzie?
I honestly don't remember. It's been, I mean, it actually hasn't been long since I've watched the episode, but I don't remember his name, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's like, that in itself was enough. I mean, like, you know, the PTSD she suffered as a kid, and that watching her own father get tortured to death by the Cardassians, and that, you know, and being, you know, remember?
Yeah. You know, Hawk, I think Jean-Luc does realize what the Maquis means to her, but he as the Starfleet captain that he is, could never ever say that out loud or even let himself feel it. But I think he did know, which I think hurts him even more. Does that make sense?
I also think, like, Rose says it in that speech too. She's like, you confuse, like, I forget exactly her line, but it's like, you confuse, like, duty with love or whatever. Like, and it's like, it's like she betrayed Starfleet, not him. But for Jean-Luc, who is someone so, especially at that time, was so wrapped up in what Starfleet is, he didn't really see the difference, and she did, because she was less tied up in what Starfleet is versus people.
Was it?
I mean, he said it last episode. I don't need any family other than Starfleet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
It was duty for honor, right?
Duty for honor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry, Hawk.
Anyways, so yeah, and the fact that it, you know, that, like, it came at the worst possible time. You know, when they just, you know, learned of the threat of the changelings, suddenly Ro shows up. The entire thing was suspicious from the get-go in that, you know, it's, as Shaw points out, they're taking a shuttle for what's wrong with the teleporters.
Yeah.
You know? And as we knew back from DS9 and that, you know, changelings and teleporters and body scans and that, you know, that would be suspicious in and of itself and that. So in fact, their entire first meeting back in that was just simple jabs and, you know, counter questions and that, rather than actually talking. You know, they were both trying to suss out whether they were actually who they said they were, and that the whole thing with the metaphor of the earring was like great writing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love that, especially because you made her sus. Very sus.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's like I did not trust her
Yep.
I did not think she was who she said she was. I knew Jean-Luc was who he says he was, but the entire time,
Do we?
Well, we'll find out, I guess. What else to say? But yeah, it was the most emotional moment of this season so far.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Losing her that way, and like to think, it's like she left. The last scene we saw of her in TNG was in a shuttlecraft, and the final scene we see of her is in another one.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Holy shit,
Yeah.
Hawk. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really
Oh,
good. That's a good
dude.
point.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyways, I'm good. You go.
MC.
I mean, I did not see this. I did not see this coming. I was told by Julian, it was like, bring tissues, when I was going to watch the screeners. And so I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen? And then when Ro comes in, I'm just like, what's happening? And I didn't realize just how late in TNG Ro's storyline goes. Like, it's like one of the last episodes.
It is the
Last
penultimate episode of
Yeah.
the entire
Yeah.
series.
Yeah, like in my head, I kept on thinking it's like, oh, it's the end of season 6 or the beginning of season 7. No, it's right at the end. So it is her arc over TNG lasts such a long time, and there's just no resolution to it at all. Like, we haven't heard anything from her, like through DS9 or any of the movies. So yeah, like, we really needed to get this moment, and this makes so much sense for her. Because this is exactly who Ro Laren is. And this is exactly who Jean-Luc helped her become. It's just he can't see it because of his blinding anger towards her because of what he thinks is a personal betrayal. Just to bring back Jessie's point on the fridging of Ro and the portrayal of the female characters, I've been thinking about this a lot since we have talked about this over previous weeks. I think I've figured out what I personally feel is the big flaw in the portrayal of the female characters. And that's the fact that Jack is not Jackie or Jacqueline.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I think that it would have made, and I know the reason why they made Jack Crusher one, because the name, but also because like the whole father-son thing, which is not a good reason to do it.
No, it's not.
And I think that considering how much of the storyline is based off of Picard and now off of Jack, that it's really cutting off the opportunity to have more female representation in the show. And because
also,
you do have.
Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
It's, Bev is ex-lover mother. So, I mean, if Jack had been a female character, that it would have lessened that whole idea of her. So
yeah,
you just made me think about something that I was sort of thinking about. If you want my cynical like Hollywood rot brain take on it, is there's a part of me that's just like, well, they've been continually pitching this, like, they did it at Comic-Con's, like, well, maybe the season isn't the end. And maybe the next generation. So I'm like, part of me is like, well, my bet is Jack Crusher and Crash LaForge are probably going to be potential like leads or like characters in a next generation show. And there's a part of me that's like, well, they probably wanted the dude character to be the lead, so you get the Jack Crusher.
Right.
So that's a little bit of the Hollywood rot producer cynical brain. Again, I like Jack Crusher overall, but I think you're absolutely correct. I think it would have been a much more interesting choice and I think more depthful choice to have that a daughter for Picard.
Yeah, I completely agree, MC. I think it's a great point. I think it would have been, more just like a deeper story, honestly.
And there would have been less sibling rivalry between him and Wesley.
And Wes, yeah. Oh boy.
We don't talk about Wes.
We don't. No.
I want that.
I do want that story.
That
Give me a book. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ro Laren is one of my favorite Star Trek characters ever. I love her, and on that same note, I'm a huge fan of Michelle Forbes. When she took on the role of Admiral Kane in Battlestar Galactica. I over and over just lose my collective shit. Just what a strong role and what a strong actor Michelle Forbes is. Their scene in 10 Forward is everything that I've wanted. It goes back to even like episodes like Defiant, you know, where Kira's in that story with Tom Riker, but man, would have been so much more like deep if that was Ro. You know, it's just I've wanted Ro back for so long, and it's just I know. MC, what were you gonna say?
Yeah. No, just like the idea of that. I was just like, I'm mad that I don't have that episode
right.
now.
It's just and we know from Michelle Forbes, you know, that she turned down DS9 and that she turned down Voyager, and I just, of all the people that I thought I was going to see come back, it was never Ro Laren. So it was just this beautiful surprise. And when they each said to each other, "You broke my heart, well, you broke mine." I think it was you broke mine. That's when I was crying. I was just like, these two. And when she says something like, you don't have any idea what it was like to be under your like tyrannical rule or something like that, because he was trying to mold her in his image. It's just it's so powerful and it's so good. On her death, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I do think it does fall into that sexist trope. At the same time, I've been arguing a tiny bit against that just because of a little bit of what we know about Michelle Forbes. I think there's a part of me that thinks that she went into this being like, listen, this is like a one and done. You know, if you're going to do something with this character, I should go out in a blaze of glory. I also look at
the Han Solo thing.
Yeah, the Han Solo thing. I also look at it into like, yeah, that's not the right word. Canonically. I think it works for her as a former Maquis and her story, because we know, right, that all of the Maquis, most of the Maquis are dead, right? Chakotay, B'Elanna, Ro, and we didn't know Ro survived. Now we do. Our survivors, they have that survivor guilt. Like we see B'Elanna go through this whole thing in Voyager where, you know, she's having, you know, suicidal thoughts and she wants to offer herself. I'm not saying that Ro wanted to die, but I think like it's almost like this is just it's almost like the tragedy of the Maquis, and it just like it makes sense to me in that way. That besides, I mean, we know Chakotay's stranded, we know B'Elanna's with Tom, like they're kind of like the two happy endings, but for the I feel like there's just no happy endings for the Maquis, where Will Riker says very loosely at the beginning of this episode, the Maquis aren't our enemy anymore. They got wiped out, you know. It's just so I think it's a really good and strong ending for the character, but I also completely see that it does fall into that trope. So it's hard, right? Because like I can make sense of the death, but it is still very much, you know, she has been fridged. So
I mean,
you have to say, go ahead. If we're going to bring up the Maquis in this episode, how dare we not bring up Thomas Riker?
Right, poor man has been rotting away in a Cardassian prison.
He dead.
Man,
I honestly think he's dead, but
it's like Jonathan Frakes is right there.
I know.
He's right there. He's right there. A little reference to the fact, like, hey, I gave this dude my trombone. He stole the Defiant, and now I kind of want to know what happened to him. But for me, you know, kind of jumping off what you were saying, Julian, that it's a not everything needs to be one thing. Like we can be a fitting end for the character and also be a fridging.
Totally.
And you can discuss it in both contexts about like, you know, how it does fit into larger sexist tropes that do exist, that we do slot these characters into, and that it's important to recognize as such. But then also say too, we have a feeling of like, this is a good end for the character. We thought it was a fitting end to a character, especially given, like, I probably agree with you, it probably was a one and done thing that Michelle Forbes says, I'll come back, I'll do an episode.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna do that, you might as well do it that gives a sense of finality to it, which this does.
Yes.
So I think it can be both things. And
Totally.
you know, 10 when we get into like criticism of media, people tend to want things to slot into like, this was good, this was bad, this was this was that. Here's my review score, here's the definitive number that I give to this thing. It's like, no, we can wrestle with it as both things and discuss it in both contexts, and not necessarily have to slot it into, it was a sexist terrible trope, or, you know, it was the perfect end for a character. It can be both.
That's a great point. Yeah. Hawk, I saw you raising your finger.
Sorry, just to go back to Michelle Forbes, the actor in that. One of the things I kind of take into account when in the fact that she did a one and done like for this character in that, it's like this is kind of traditional for her in that as a working actor in that.
That's
she
a good
could have
point.
she could have taken DS9 in that. That was a steady gig, guaranteed, like, right? But
Yep.
she wanted to explore like a different kind of career in that. I mean, like around the same time, she had that movie California with Brad Pitt and David Duchovny in that. So, and the terrible, I love Star Trek, but one of the terrible things being an actor on Star Trek is that you tend to be typecast in that. It's happened to so many of the cast of that show, where it's like they casting agents don't see them as a working actor. A few have broken the mold in that, but it tends to sometimes, like, Star Trek tends to be like an albatross around your neck, going forward in your own career in that. And she broke away from that very early. And has had quite a good career afterwards.
Let's not forget her amazing turn on Battlestar Galactica. Like
Battlestar Galactica,
yep. Not a good character, but an interesting,
but an amazing character.
yeah. She was the main villain season 2 of True Blood as well.
That's right. That's right. God, that's Hawk, blowing my mind again twice. Awesome. MC, I know that you were trying to talk earlier too. Crazy.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I mentioned Thomas Riker, but I think in terms of killing off Ro, I think right now we're all fairly comfortable with the idea of the main cast is Teflon, like nothing's touching them right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And
I have a feeling Riker's gonna die, but that's in my
don't you
really?
fucking dare, Jesse.
He's had his whole arc about being like, I'm scared. His whole thing for associates, I'm gonna live forever. And then his arc this season is like, I saw my kid go into the ground, and I'm worried about like death, and there's nothing after. I think they're setting him up to die. That's just my thought.
And then it'll be a plot twist, and it's actually Thomas Riker.
Oh God, no. guys, if that happens,
comes in the shuttle. It comes in the Defiant, and at the end of the last, I was like, I stole it again to save you.
if they kill Will, I will need a month off of the pod.
He does it to save his family. I could totally see that.
Wow,
I could easily see that. Yeah.
They did need to bring somebody in with some stakes, and bringing in Ro is kind of the perfect character to bring in, because she's not only a legacy character with this huge just backstory on TNG, but she's unresolved.
Yeah.
So like, because I think kind of the thing with fridging, it's for a male character's, pain and, to carry his story along, but it was also the completion of her story, the one that we never got.
Yeah.
So I think that it does act in both ways.
Yep.
I actually like that point, because with the fridging story, it's always to motivate a male character, which you do get for Shaw and Picard here, are kind of like motivated. Picard more emotionally, but Shaw more plot wise. With her death, but it is also on her terms. Like the original fridging, if you think back to like the Green Lantern thing, it's just like, Green Lantern just had a wife who just, or a girlfriend, excuse me, who just existed just to die. Whereas like here, like this is a fitting thing for Ro, and it's also her choice. Like she chooses it to the extent she has agency in that situation. So like there is the distinction of it not being exact, like down to a T, the fridging trope. So.
Yeah.
I'm happy we did this. We combined all three of these talking points into one, which is great for time. I do want to talk about one of the last points in this third little bit we have here. This last bit where before she does die, Ro gives Jean-Luc the earring, which is, what made us suspicious in the beginning. Why isn't she wearing it? That's such a big part of who Ro is. And of course, Will Riker, being the boss that he is, he's like, Jean-Luc, come on, get with the program. Spyware, man. Like, look. Spycraft. She was Rafi and Worf's handler, which is just such an added layer of badassery. What did you guys? We could be brief on this one, but what do we think about that? And then seeing her whole investigation in front of their eyes. Jesse, sorry.
I think it's cool. I mean, I'm always down for some spy stuff. Like it goes to that conspiracy thriller angle, like that I thought this episode captured really well. Like I loved it. I'm always I'm a big fan of like the 1970s like conspiracy
Mhm.
thriller sort of thing, like Parallax View and you know, even right behind you we got the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like quite literally that's 1970s sort of like conspiracy, everyone's out to get you thriller sort of vibe. So I love that stuff. It's like that's actually one of my favorite genres.
Nice.
So to sort of like use that sort of spycrafty like Cold War era kind of feel to it, I think is great. So I'm here for it.
Nice.
Yeah, they did an amazing job with the spy stuff. I love spy stuff as well. Like I joked earlier, the Jason Bourne stuff. So having actual spy, like kiss kiss bang bang types, little spy trinkets and stuff, it makes me wonder why they didn't write so well in the last 2 seasons, because they've hit so many different genres like perfectly this season. And then they did this great spy episode. I'm like, fuck, man.
I think my pitch for that is, number one, I think Terry Matalas got kind of put in charge. So I think there's just a shift in direction. No, necessarily no shade at the other seasons, but I think Terry Matalas just brings in what's the season's doing for you know, his own style.
Yeah.
But I also think too that just my thing is the way I describe seasons 1 and 2 of Picard is, and I like season 1 more than 2, but both seasons have this problem of they're a show that is attempting to win an Emmy without really having anything to say.
It's true. And like there's no reason for them. Like there's no lasting repercussions from those 2 seasons. Like this one, there's like, just based on what's happened so far, it's going to affect the Federation, right?
There were stakes. There were actual stakes.
But they already threw away the Borg thing this season. They're like, you know what? Not the Jurati Borg. We have real Borg still out there. Like, okay, then what's the point of that? I don't know. But spy stuff, lovely. Okay, going back. Go Huck.
The whole earring, oh my god, is perfect. Not only as a metaphor, but as a device, you know, that she would use, and that as being the traditional, like old school, like spy, like Maquis that she was, and that, you know, keep all the sensitive data you have on the most personal item that you have, and it's so unassuming and so unsuspecting, you know. But again, it's that whole metaphor of the relationship between Picard and Ro, and that, you know, like, you know, the final scene of Ensign Ro, and that was her. She's like, you know, staked her claim on, you know, like, I'll come back to Starfleet, but this is staying on, you know. And Picard was cool with it, and that, and the fact that he pointed it out the first thing that in the conference room when he saw her for the first time in 30 years, you're not wearing it. It's like, that was sus. That was sus. That was so important to you.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, brilliant writing.
MC.
So I think my biggest problem with it is that it reminded me of my anger from Ensign Ro over the whole not letting her wear the earring thing. And it's like a religious exemption. Come on, guys. But having it be like this, where all of the information is being kept, it's inside this, you know, symbol of faith. It's, you know, Ro's faith in Jean-Luc in handing it over to him. And it's just so lovely. And just letting that be how Worf and Raffi are brought into all of this. It's so great, because rather than just having them kind of stumble onto each other, it's
a great connection.
It's tying everything together nicely. And somebody had posted a comparison shot between this and All Good Things of the first appearance of Worf in the future to Riker and Picard, and just the difference in his face, like how happy, as happy as Worf ever gets to see them, versus how angry he is to see them in All Good Things. It just warmed my heart.
Nice. Yeah.
It also, speaking of comparisons, that reminds me of like Ro's very first scene, which is her getting told to take off the earring by Riker.
Yeah.
Which, calls all the way back to that. So.
Yep. It does. It really does. And they mention that, right? In the episode, right? Yeah. It's just, it's so good. I'm not gonna, you guys killed it. Before we get to our next talking point, we have to do our weekly trivia. And last week we asked how many seconds Jack told Picard to hold before cutting thrusters. The correct answer was 4 seconds. And this week's answer, she is in the chat. Winner is Tara. Congrats, Tara.
Hey.
Woo! Yeah, 4 seconds. So you will get a Picard season 3 poster. So be on the lookout for that. We have a trivia question this week. Jessie, as our guest, can you read this week's trivia question too? You're gonna have to do a little bit of homework for this one, more than the last few weeks.
Where is it? Where the hell is it? I have the document open. I'm just trying to find it in the dang
It's
thing.
okay. It is
I've
the
been
literally
highlighted.
running joke of the show with the outline. You're good.
Where is it? Where is it?
Right under the final row of it all paragraph.
Oh, you just did it. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. In the TNG. Okay, sorry. In this week's episode, Jean-Luc reminds Will that the last time he saw Ro, she pulled a phaser on him. In the TNG episode Preemptive Strike, what does Ro ask Will to tell Captain Picard?
All right. So we're going to have to do a little bit of homework. It's a good question, though. As always, you can DM me on Discord the answer, or you can email us. Probably the easiest way. People have been using our new email address, trivia@strangenewpod.com. And congrats to all of our winners so far. Some of you should be getting the first round of posters soon, so be on the lookout for those. I think I'm on the right page. Yes, I am. King Crin. I was trying to go for a kingpin pun there. It didn't quite work, but I went for it anyway.
Kringpin.
Kringpin. Damn it, MC.
There it is. Yeah.
I got to keep you on another day. Oh man. It was so awesome. He's playing a gangster and he has a whole Vulcan gang, and then the Worf Raffi fight. I mean, this is just epic scenes with Kirk Avacedo and Crin, and it's just, and his bling and his tattoos. Jessie, your thoughts on this whole moment?
I'm going to be honest and say I love the concept of this, and I love the actor's performance. I think he does it so well. This is one of those elements that I think it kind of falls at the altar of this like serialized gotta move the story forward a little bit for me, because like legitimately if we could have done a whole like the most toys kind of episode about this guy. I would have loved to see his ideology, and I would have loved to see more about him. Sadly, just because of like we're telling a bigger story, we got to get things moving. I did feel like he wasn't really fleshed out as much as I would have liked. So we got little things of like, utopia. He's like kind of gives some of his ethos, like, utopia requires crime, therefore having organized crime is most logical. And I'm like, that's an interesting ideology. Like
It is.
that your
is.
starting premise I disagree with, but if you're gonna follow the logic from that, then that's an interesting sort of logic thing. I disagree with like utopia requires crime premise. But it's like I would have loved to see how he got there. What does that mean for his things? But it ultimately kind of just boils down to him being like, saying, "Oh, having crime is most logical." Like he just says logical a bunch, and it's like I felt a little underbaked for me. Now he is a character I thought was interesting because you can clear, and I like that the show doesn't like expressly state it, but it is implied. And I thought this was really subtle, where it's like his weakness is that he has racism towards Klingons.
Yeah.
And it's like you get that in the performance, you get that in the like that's his weakness. It's the whole thing that Raffi's like the whole arc with Raffi this episode. She's like has to sometimes sacrifice something in order to reveal someone's weakness, which I'm sure will come up later on as like a recurrent theme with her. But like that's a subtle thing here, and the thing it reveals is that he has a dislike of Klingons. That like there's never a moment that stops and says this guy's racist towards Klingons, but it just comes out from the performance and the theme going on.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really subtle writing. And I thought the performance was great and all of that jazz. I will just say that I did find him as like the concept of a Vulcan gangster so fascinating that I felt it was a little bit underbaked for me. And that was my one big sort of thing with this. Otherwise, everything else with like Worf and Raffi was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this sort of stuff. It was a really good time. And the chemistry between Michael Dorn and Michelle Hurd is like off the charts.
So
like
good.
They're so
They're
good.
so
Oh, that was
good.
awesome.
The good news is that unlike poor Sneed, Crin is still alive.
Yeah, if we get him back, I would read a whole book, a whole comic, or a whole episode if they ever get back to him at some point with him, because he's fascinating, as Spock would say.
Well done. Well done.
Here he is just a little underbaked for me.
Fair. Eric.
Yeah, I like this too. My issue with this is he does feel like a one and done for me. Personally, it feels like all of these gangsters, which would have been so cool to have, like this collective of, like, they've hit like major species, Ferengi and then Vulcan as these major things. But for me, it being a 12 Monkeys fan, I'm like, you're getting your friends to play these one-off villains, and then they're going to be gone for the next episode. I'm like, that's sort of shitty because I like them all.
Yeah,
they're all very like intriguing. I like that he wears the IDIC like pendant,
as
like
bling,
like a
Yeah,
Sopranos
it was
character. So,
That was great. The
so,
cosplay department had fun.
yeah,
So much fun.
He should have had some ear piercings. That's
yeah.
no, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, like the they could have had like the dangly like Vulcan like like
Oh,
lines,
yes.
and, like,
man.
like dangly earrings. That would have been fun.
Yeah. I like the whole sequence. I thought it was fun. I like the fight to the death. It was very TOS. The Vulcans love their fights to the death, so that's pretty funny.
Nice reference. Good.
And we got to see the mobile holo emitter again that the Doctor used, so it's nice to see that's
That has huge implications for the current Star Trek universe, because the last time we knew about it, Starfleet was not able to replicate the technology. So
things have been backwards. Like whatever. I don't remember what the term is.
Backwards compatible or retrofitted or one of those. Fancy,
something. We'll put in post to make us seem smarter. Other than that, I like Jesse was saying, the play between Michelle Hurd and Michael Dorn is just so good. Like, they play off each other so well. Like that fight was. I was watching with Kateri today, and she was like, I like both of these characters. I don't want one of them to die. I was like, it's a good day to die. And then he said, I was like, yeah, damn it. Yeah, that's right. If like, we're not going to get the Section 31 movie with Michelle Yeoh, we know, but I would love to see Starfleet Intelligence with all of these characters that we've seen so far. Like, this
could be the Section 31 show now that Michelle won her Oscar, because they're not going to be able to get her. Yeah,
they've also just been dangling her along for such a long time. Like, I'm fine. Like, give Michael Dorn a TV show. He's been wanting one for one. Yeah, exactly.
Michael Kwan and Takako in the chat both had the answer. Reverse engineered is the word. There it is.
Yeah, just put that in. Yeah, edit it back and just put you saying it. Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think I love the idea that they kept on one-upping each other. Yeah. Like, Worf was like, yeah, I know how to do this, and we'll do this, and yeah, it was cool. I like this. I like Kirk. I was gonna say avocado, but avocado. And I hope he comes back. Like, he's been amazing every single show that I've seen him in. So
his role in 12 Monkeys is probably, and I thought it was Charlie from Fringe was my favorite, but then I binged all 12 Monkeys, and Ramsey, I love him.
I need to watch 12 Monkeys. That's my plan after.
You really do.
I'm finishing Sopranos, and then after Sopranos, 12 Monkeys.
Sopranos is so good too.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
it. Yeah. We're gonna have words, Eric. Oh, go ahead.
First up, Kirk Acevedo and that. Years ago, I first saw him in that HBO series Oz. That was kind of a precursor to Soprano. He played Miguel Alvarez in it, and that he actually made it to the end. It was like the 7 seasons that it ran for. Great character. Like, what a journey that guy goes through in that.
You saw that before Band of Brothers?
Yeah, I don't think I actually really saw all of Band of Brothers.
Oh man.
So yeah, no. Friday nights, like back in the 90s, late 90s, and I was in like watching Oz because it was such a good show. So it was great to see him in Star Trek as a Vulcan gangster, no less. And for anybody poo-pooing on the idea of Vulcans being an actual Vulcan gangster, well, what did T'Pring do for a living in that? She tried to rehabilitate criminals.
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Hey, Hawk, you're killing me tonight, man.
Yeah.
I'm getting educated.
You know what we could do? We could do is the prequel. We could have him back, but on Strange New Worlds, and it's him 100 years earlier. Vulcans lived for hundreds of years.
Yes,
that's right.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Plus,
we should all be writing for Star Trek.
Yeah, no, let's just call him. Let's just hey, Alex Kurtzman. We got some ideas for you. This is your writer's room right here. We got you.
We meet every week already.
Yeah.
But from the small amount that we saw him on the screen, I did get like kind of a fuller backstory, and like questions kept popping in my head. It's like, when we see Vulcans typically in Star Trek and that, it's usually in science and education and Starfleet and that. But what about that that section of like Vulcans and that were left orphans and that, and for whatever reason, and that some Vulcans maybe grew up in poverty and that, and like the fact that he had a found family with Sneed,
Yeah, no one was teaching. I mean, he obviously does have some teachers of Surak, but like not all of it. Obviously, Yeah.
No, he learned like this whole life of growing up hard and that, and as he said, like loyalty is considered family in my culture, which is the underground.
Yeah,
I was pretty blown away by that. The Worf Raffi fight, I loved it. It was great. I love that little knife toss that the Worf does in the middle of it. And that, I'm hopeful. I know it's probably a one and done kind of thing with him, but come on,
we can make things work.
Yeah.
MC.
Okay, I mean, it was already spoiled in the intro to this episode. I mean, I love Kirk Cavado, so like seeing him turn up in this episode was just so great. And I mean, we all know I'm MC of the headcanons and fanfic, so like having a character that is kind of half baked actually works for me, because then it just lets my mind go wild. I mean, like it's not great in terms of like the actual show, but I have since come up with so many different headcanons. Like I was actually trying to translate the Vulcan that's on his tattoo because I'm that fan. And I kind I decided that
live
actually
fast, LARPA hard. Sorry.
It's so dumb.
I
I love
know.
it. But I don't think he can read it. I don't think he can read Vulcan.
I'm with you
I
on
think
that one.
Sneed. I think Sneed like wrote it, or got somebody to write it for him, which is why it's so dumb.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of like equated him to the Orion character from what is it? Hear All, Trust Nothing. Who's that's the one who's like I learned everything about Orions from bad romance novels.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, his whole idea of logic is so flawed because he doesn't really have any proper concept of logic.
Well, he grew up with, with Sneed. Like we get that.
Yeah, he
reference.
did.
Yeah.
Kind of wish he had like stroked his ears at one point, just like did very Ferengi.
Yeah.
I do. I would love a prequel comic.
I was just saying we need a book or a comic with these two.
I would like both of them together because I think that's like the big problem.
It's literally a 12 Monkeys reunion. Oh
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I did have a problem with the whole fight to the death. I mean, it totally makes sense to me, like especially in terms of the whole like the connecting it to the Caliphate. That's very much a perversion of Vulcan ideals, which I think,
again fits his
confirms
kind of a character for that, right?
Yeah. But like this whole like Worf is like built up an immunity to the knives. Sure. Why not? The fake out just didn't work for me because I think when I was watching it, I messaged you and I was like, they didn't kill Worf.
Klingons and redundant organs, like they're not killing Worf. Yeah,
they're not killing Worf. They're not, especially not. They're not killing him before he sees anybody else from TNG. Like exactly. that's just not happening.
Well, and we know that he sees him later. There's the Riker scene about being a pacifist, and like, we're all gonna die. So it's spoiled that he's not gonna die.
Yeah. So that didn't really work for me, but whatever. It got us to the next bit, and they left him. They left Kryn alive, so I'm gonna live in hope that they bring him back at some point.
I hope so.
Same.
If I ever write for Star Trek, I will bring him back. God dang it!
Damn right.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
The only thing I want to say about this, I'm not gonna swoon over Kirk. I cannot do the name Kirk Acevedo anymore. He's amazing. I love him. Period. End of story. What I loved about this was Worf just being a Klingon. Like
Mhm.
Worf's always strived to be a Klingon, and I think he's finally living his like best Klingon self. You know, now he's like throwing knives on the hull, and Rafi's like, dude, stop putting holes in my floor. And I love that. I really do. I love the little hints to like when he used to spar with his crewmates on DS9 and on TNG, and he would do that thing with his hand where, you know, he'd like go out like this. It's like a very Worf move that he did all the time. So it was a nice little flashback. The fight didn't do it for me. It was cool. It just, I never ever suspected for a second that he was dead.
Yeah.
But it was still cool. And it was fine. Our final talking point tonight, we're gonna be trying to be quick with this one. Investibev, not investigates, Investibev. So Bev and Dr. Oak do an autopsy, right, on not Sydney LaForge, and realize that the changelings have possibly evolved to be able to mimic humans right down to the organs. Until you get there, they don't go to the gelatinous state. By the way, someone in the oh no, it's in a mailbag, so I'm not going to spoil it yet. Sorry. Chat mailbag get confusing for me sometimes. It's a good one though. This means that anyone could be a changeling right now, and it would be damn near impossible to tell. I mean, Seven figured it out last week with a very specific question that worked, but other than that, really hard to tell. Do we have any suspicions on people that we may love and know that might be a changeling? Jessie.
I don't know. The only one that would be interesting for me would be like Troy, because we haven't really
That's what I was
seen her, and
saying
she's
too.
been like off on the side. So it'd be
Mhm.
interesting. We see like Troy ends up being a changeling. She's the only. I think she's the only one here because like it feels to me like Riker feels pretty safe.
Yeah.
Picard feels pretty safe just given their actions. Shaw seems pretty safe. I'm like trying to run through everybody. It's like based on their actions, maybe they're playing the long game, but it doesn't really feel like it would make sense to me to have anyone else be. So the only one that immediately would come to mind would be Troy, just because she's been absent from the picture for so long.
I agree. That was the one I was going to say. I was going to say Troy, mostly because we have Riker and his whole thing with his family right now. And if she was the changeling, she could manipulate him to do, you know, whatever going forward. I can't think of any of the main cast. I can't even think of the Titan crew that would be one.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe like one of the like the on bridge crew, but
who's
done, we don't know them really enough.
And we've done it with Sydney already, right?
Yeah.
And getting 2 Sydneys would just be weird, or 3 Sydneys.
Someone in the chat wrote not Kestra. Please, not Kestra. Don't break my heart like that.
Don't do children.
No children,
weird.
please. I don't like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could also be Geordi, but it doesn't feel like Geordi would also be like given like we know he's at the Fleet Museum from I think episode 1, like maybe, but
and people would think that because his daughter was already a changeling, they're like, maybe it's him. That'd just be weird writing. I don't like that. Yeah. No, that's all. Troy.
Yeah. Hawk?
Honestly, like I can't see it being any of the main cast this season. And that, like, it's okay. The chat people, it's not Beverly, for God's sakes. And that she's the one who, like, you know, as somebody mentioned in the chat, she had those conversations. Tara, she mentioned how she had those conversations with Picard, very detailed about their past and that. So it's not her, you know. And she's the one who revealed that they now have organs upon death.
Though,
you know?
to be fair, Hawk, she wasn't on the ship already. They rescued her. Someone could have done a very deep debrief if she was a changeling and give her all of that information. Could have been conditioned and trained. I don't think that Bev or Deanna are out of the realm of possibility.
I have one.
Let's let everybody go, and then you can do your second.
I'll do it after.
Yeah.
But before, there is one person I am suspicious of. I don't know who she is or what species she is. It's that one crewmate and that the green skin with the weird stripes and that.
Oh, it's not Tavine. Tavine's the Vulcan Delton. What's their name? What's their name? I forget their name. Wait, you know what? I could pull it up as you're going because it's on the promo pics this week. But keep going.
They did feature heavily in Jack's like hallucinations about killing, and there was a suspicious glance like tossed over the shoulder in the hallway, for one moment in this episode, and it's like
Kova Esmar, Ensign Esmar,
Ensign Esmar, and that there was a moment between the two in the hallway. It was like she was in the distance. It was really blurry, but like it kind of made me suspicious for some reason.
Yeah. MC.
Okay, well, just on this whole, it's not Bev thing because of the knowledge that Beverly seems to have. The changelings are evolving. Like, I don't think that there's anything that we can use about our knowledge of the changelings because all of it is different now. And I'm actually going to agree with the chat. I think that it could be Bev because I think I mentioned that earlier tonight.
Yep.
And I think that it's possible that, one, this changeling doesn't know she's a changeling.
Mhm.
And two, this changeling has a direct connection to the actual Bev.
The only thing, now that I'm thinking about it, that doesn't work for Bev again is it would be nearly impossible for a changeling to get that myriad codec for the Enterprise D. I feel like that's the yeah.
This is why I think that the changeling has a direct mental link to Bev. Like, basically, the changeling is Bev, just in a changeling
Right.
body, and is
So-
waiting
so-
for the Great Link
so
to like
going
flip the
full-
switch.
So
Yeah.
going full body snatchers. then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I'm gonna, and Giraffe is the one that's always right. I'm the one that's usually wrong. I'm gonna say that Paramount could advertise it all the way that they want, like the nobody's safe from our beloved crew. None of them are changelings. None of them are changelings. They're gonna want us to think one of them's a changeling for the rest of the season. None of them are gonna end up being changelings. I think there's gonna be a character that shows up later, and I'm not spoiling anything. I don't know. I've only seen up to episode 6. I have no idea. I think there is gonna be another legacy character that shows up, not Geordi, that is a changeling. I think that's going to happen. I don't think it's anybody that we know right now.
I don't know if it's gonna be
Spoiler alert, it's Bashir again.
Hey, I brought him up before for different reasons.
That would be.
I
funny. That
don't
would
know if it would be a
funny.
legacy
It would be
character. I think it could be Laris. I think Laris could come back as a changeling.
That would be so fucked for Jean-Luc, but I like it.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Yeah, that's why.
It's
That
like,
poor
well,
man.
this reeks of like nostalgia brain a little bit, but it's like if they killed Laris, then it's like, well, then he can be with Beverly, which is a totally horrible way to
It is
write
an
that story.
I think I
would
said
but
hate
I could see
that.
that. I could see someone pitching that.
I would hate
It's like
it.
it's like I would hate it. I don't want that. I could see someone in a writer's room being like, "What if we did it that way?" And I'm like, ugh.
But Terry also
It'll
said
turn out that Laris has been a changeling for like 2 seasons, and the real Laris is off with Jaban somewhere.
That would actually, I would
Poor
kind of like
Jaban.
that. Poor Jaban.
Jaban.
Sorry, real quick. Were you going to read that?
no.
Go ahead, real quick. I'll read that comment
Okay,
after.
I was gonna say, but Terry has been recently saying that the reason why he didn't want to do butt plugs is because he didn't want to kill everyone that was gonna be a changeling.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
He could keep Laris alive and still have a changeling.
True. Dimmer Meerkat wrote, now I'm suspiciously eyeing the picture of LeVar and Mika and their Starfleet regalia since we have to be sus of Starfleet. Tune into the show. Who knows?
Don't feel sus about
Don't feel
LeVar
yeah,
Burton.
Don't feel you
He
can't
taught
do that
us how
to
to
LeVar.
read.
He did.
Take a look. In a
Any
changelings
final
here
oh
now.
I love the reading Burning Bow. Yes, you keep singing. Any final thoughts on this episode?
They can be anyone.
Let's take a look. It's in a book. Reading Rainbow. Okay, we're done. Any final thoughts? Everybody good? Everybody happy? Anything on this episode?
Best
Good.
episode of the season so far, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's gotten it's excellent. Like
Yeah. Starfleet is at it. Star Trek is at its best when it lets their characters talk.
Yes.
And they
Yeah.
did that to spades this episode.
Also, never thought I could see a ship look angry.
Oh,
That's
dude.
another-
Yes, I was gonna say
Oh
that.
my god, it did, didn't it?
yeah.
Such bravo
Yeah.
VFX team this week, by the way.
Mhm, they killed it, yeah.
Easter eggs that are not on my list. Does anybody have any?
The reference to Guinan with
Yes.
Ro.
Yeah.
Right to Rascals.
Yep. Very well
there was
done.
there was a list of on the list of
Yes.
enemies. There's like Norm or not Norm,
Morn.
Morn, and like a bunch of other people that were all on Star Trek.
Brunt.
Yep, Brunt. I
Yeah,
saw
Brunt.
FCA.
Okona.
Yep.
Okona was
Okona.
on there.
Yep.
We're living the O'Connor Renaissance, you know.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But I mean, this
Getting
would have
second-
been the way to get Jeffrey Combs on the show, and they
Oh
missed
my God.
opportunity.
The earring information also said that the Enterprise F is getting decommissioned early.
Yes. Yep. That they did a log on that before the season aired. It was actually really cool. Which is also a little disappointing. But yeah,
maybe that's what's going to play in the last 4 episodes.
Right.
Well,
right.
yeah, if we're gonna play that guessing game, well, we know so they got all the fleet together at some point for like whatever day. In like someone's gonna mess up, but it's like, oh, but we do have a ship that's not part of the fleet because it was just decommissioned. Which actually that's actually one note I will say. That is one note of like this is a recurring modern Star Trek problem of like escalations of scale. It's like it makes no sense that it would be the entire Starfleet coming to this
No, it doesn't.
And it's always that with like modern Star. Again, I generally like modern Star Trek, but it's always like it can't just be a lot of ships. It needs to be every ship. It can't just be a few Romulan ships coming to destroy the synth planet in season 1. It's a billion of them. You know, it's same thing with Discovery. It's always that problem with modern Star Trek. It's always like it's not just a little. It's not just this much. It's all of them. Just It's a whatever. It's a minor thing, but it always bugs me. So.
That's true though. It's definitely true. Hawk, you were waving away.
The mention of conspiracy was directly paralleled in when Ro and Picard started actually talking to each other instead of just suspecting each other and that. And she said like it goes all the way to the top. She sounded exactly like Walker.
She did
in that episode.
Really, really did.
Yeah.
I know that Terry has said it's not butt bugs, but I'm holding out. I'm not saying this sarcastically. Like I'm legitimately holding out hope because conspiracy needs to be resolved. It really does.
It really does.
So fingers crossed. My list. So much 12 monkeys. I didn't say it way at the beginning. All of the red and the tendrils and the door. I don't want to spoil too much for folks who haven't watched 12 Monkeys yet, but there's a lot of that in 12 Monkeys for a very specific reason, which I won't spoil. But I think Terry's using that just because it's a style. I don't know if it actually means anything. I just think he likes using that style. I could be wrong. Kryn talking about how him and Sneed grew up on the streets in District 6 as scavengers is exactly, and called him his brother. Ramsey and James were brothers in 12 Monkeys, and they were scavengers, and they were part of Deacon's West 7 group run by who Deacon was played by help me, Shaw. Todd Stashwick. No. So it was just this giant 12 Monkeys love fest, and it was beautiful. Obviously references to Preemptive Strike and Ensign Ro. So
Worf, also the one-handed fighting was Bruce Lee.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Yes.
Maybe a little Morpheus in the Matrix too. Yeah.
Which I think is based on
Bruce Lee. So good point. Good point.
Nice one, Eric.
All right, chat, you let us know as well, and we'll go in our reverse order for this one. Our rating of this episode out of 10 burning nacelles. MC.
I'm gonna go with 9 with this one. It's a really good episode, but the death fake out for Worf just knocks it down. Just also been giving out a lot of 10s lately. So
yeah, you have uncharacteristically. Hawk.
I was gonna say 10, but the Worf fake out did bug me a little bit, but not enough to dampen it down, for me that much. So I'm gonna go 9.5 on this episode. It was just near perfect.
Yeah,
near
9.5 as well because of the Worf fake out. That's literally the only thing I had an issue with. So yeah.
I will also have to give it a 9 for the Worf thing, and then also just like for making me want more of our Vulcan gangster friend, but still feeling a little bit underbaked in this episode. Like I definitely want more of him. Like please bring him back. He sounds great, and I would love to have him on again. But it just in this episode is a little underbaked. So for those 2 reasons, I give it a 9 and 10. But like again, near perfect.
Very good. In the chat, we have some ratings coming in. Haven gives it an 8, lowest of their season due to Worf and Ro. The Guardian Girl 8 burning nacelles because they fridged Ro. Aaron, Streak 9, take out the Raffi scenes and it was a 10. Ouch. Michael Kwan, nice ice cube trays out of the 10 in Ro's fridge. Ricardo Picardo, Chris, a 10 out of 10 Worf, huge double organs. Shatterhand, 9.5 chunks of changeling goo. Wayner, 10 changelings. Dimmer Mirky, what Jesse said. There you go. Tara, a 9.25, and Donnie Pearson, a 9 out of 10 changelings for imposters. More coming in. Justin Nicolosi, a solid 9. Dimmer Meerkat, a 9, because me screaming at my TV did not wake my roommate. Love it. Rude Parakeet, a 10 out of 10. And, oh, wow, more. Wow, it is hopping tonight. Check the circuit, 8.5 for freeing me. My worry this season would be unworthy. It is quite worthy. I said I was going to give this a 10 last week. I'm still going to give it a 10. The death fake out with Worf, it didn't work for me, but just everything with Ro prevents this from getting anything under a 10 for me. So 10 out of 10. We have a couple more. Trek Reviewer, 9 out of 10. Kenny Hudson, 9 out of 10. So lots of ratings. Good job, everyone. Chat is hopping tonight. Let's get into our subspace to poll and mailbag.
Comms, get me the dock master. Control tower reading, Commander.
And we asked Trek Twitter what they thought about this week's episode. Now, I tried to be very nice and not spoilery in our poll on Twitter because it could have gotten there. And so I used generic answers. Luckily, one of our Discord members, Michael Kwan, came to my rescue on our Discord. And this is what they thought. Who wants to take Jesse, as our guest, do you want to take our poll this week?
Let's see. This is what people thought of imposters. 81% said changelings turn and face the strange. Changelings. 14% said it was a bit chicken or egg with those boys.
I like that one.
2% said waiting for the ecology to reset, and 3% said not that intrepid. So yeah, it seems like most 81% seems like they really liked it, and 14% seems like generally positive. Only 5% were kind of like on the downside.
Oh, Jesse, I drew something for you. Hold on.
Oh my god! Yes! Love it.
Oh my god!
Little. Oh god. Oh no, baby, jack off. It's fine.
Oh my god. Show's over, guys. Good night.
Jack off 9.
No.
Jack off 9. There we go,
Oh
because
my
it's Borg.
God.
I'm sorry. Apologize.
No apologies necessary. I love Star Trek so much.
Gene Roddenberry would be proud.
And wink, wink, wink. Rolling in his grave. Eric, could you keep it going with Captain Idol?
Of course.
Please?
Captain Idol wrote, please stop killing off beloved characters from TNG, Metalis.
Fair. Hawk with Chris's, please.
Chris wrote, who turned on the tears? I love seeing Kirk Acevedo show up, and the moment I heard his voice, I had fringe flashbacks. This story is becoming so well entangled and exciting. These new changelings that click like the Solanogen.
Solanogen, I think that's the right word. Yep.
Solanogen-based life forms from schisms are fascinating. They did send something through that rift way back, an unexpected alliance maybe. Oh, and Jack is the most terrifying character on board that ship now.
I would agree with that. Yeah. MC with Aaron. Aaron's, please. Thank you.
Aaron wrote, no body, no dead. I agree. I will be saying that from now until forever about Ro. I can't accept she's dead. We barely got her back. Overall, I thought this episode was excellent, and I'm glad we are finally getting the plot lines converging so that the crew can be together again. Also, if they don't show us Kate Mulgrew by the end of the season, I will be picketing Paramount. I will join you.
Yeah,
they have been name dropping Janeway a lot.
That's true. They have. I'll take Michael's. I still like. Michael Kwan's. I still like my alternate title for this episode, Shaw's Disappointment. We didn't talk about Shaw and his.
You're just like, I just wanted to be done.
Just wanted to be done. I don't want to be talking.
Every episode is Shaw's disappointment.
Yeah, I don't want to be talking to the guys who like drop the Enterprise D sausage section on Viridian 3. Shaw's disappointment. He starts off so happy he's getting his regular life and command back, and he is shattered at the end to realize that huge events have overtaken his formerly ordered life and belief system. The scene with Michelle Forbes was intense, and Terry Matalis has some splaining to do for fridging her. I'm looking forward to multiple rewatches of this episode. Very good points.
We didn't have a lot to say about Shaw this week, but I just want to gush. I love Shaw.
So
Freaking
much.
Yeah.
He's so great.
So
Yeah.
much.
Damn
He's
right.
amazing. Jesse, can you take Cassie's mailbag, please?
Yeah, Cassie wrote, every single week I think, why couldn't we have had this for seasons 1 and 2 of Picard? Definitely understand you there. Seeing Ro one last time was everything I hoped for and never got in TNG. I'd also like to give a shout out to one Liam Shaw, who, no matter the circumstances, makes sure to remind those around him of his extreme distaste for everyone in the general vicinity and the situation they find themselves in. Truly a people's captain. I very much feel him. I relate hard. 10 out of 10 will be listening to his speech about how messy the Enterprise crew has been over the years on repeat. It's 5 sentences. Okay, I counted. It is a speech. I also will say, like, I do see a lot of people lamenting like this season should have been like what Picard always was. The one thing I am sad about is that, like, while I do not like seasons 1 and 2 Picard, I did like that they tried to shift up the tone. This does feel more in line with what we know of Next Generation.
Yes.
And I don't think the problem with seasons 1 and 2 Picard was the tone. It was the fact that they didn't really have anything they wanted to say with that tone, at least especially in season 2.
Mhm.
And I worry that the wrong lesson will be taken of like, well, don't mess with Star Trek's tone too much. Do your Strange New Worlds and your TNGs and don't play with it too much. So I hope that that's not the lesson taken, but I just assume that'll be the lesson taken.
I also miss the characters from season 1 and 2.
I do and I don't. I miss Elnor. I miss Elnor.
Yeah, I miss Elnor. I miss Rios. I do.
I like
Rios.
I like Rios.
I like
yeah.
Rios.
Yeah, fair. We're about to. Eric, you take Havens, please. You get the short ones tonight.
Yeah, Haven wrote, I never expected Commander Ro to appear. I completely expected her to already be dead thanks to Voyager. May she be blessed by the prophets. Absolutely a great but not perfect episode.
Fair. All right, Hawk. Tara knows that she done fucked up. It's okay. I reminded her on Discord, but she owns it. Can you take Tara's mailbag, please?
Oh my
Alrighty.
goodness.
Here we go. So I know people are upset that Ro died, but I thought this was a great way to use her character without being 100% fan service. Michelle Forbes was truly excellent. Those emotional moments between her and Picard. And I appreciate that they brought her back at all. What I really need to figure out is what the hell is going on with Jack and all those red lines and red branches and red scars and red windows and red eyes. And then the whispering voices. What kind of new mutant changeling have they given us here? But I'm also a little suspicious that of all the characters in the whole Trek Picard universe, it just happens to be Picard and Bev's son, who's, well, I don't know what the hell he is, but he's something. I am relatively confident they will do this plot line justice, but also thinking, wasn't it enough drama that Picard had a son he didn't know about? Did he have to be some kind of Locutus 2.0? Because that's the parallel I'm seeing, some human-alien hybrid representation. Reserving judgment as always until the answers are clear. Finally, sorry, I'm being so loquacious. After rewatching the first episode last night, I was reminded that Geordi is in charge of the Fleet Museum, which explains why we are seeing ships listed there in the end credits. Will we see these ships? Enterprise A? Voyager? Will these Dominion baddies try to destroy them like the recruitment center? Oy vey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lots and lots to look forward to.
Well done, Hawk. Awesome. MC, can you take Shatterhands, please?
Shatterhand wrote, my lamentation that we didn't get storytelling this compelling for Picard's season 1 and 2 has only gained strength thanks to Imposters, which was the perfect blend of action, suspense, and tragedy. Seeing Michelle Forbes back as Commander Ro Laren was such a treat, and she stole every scene she was in. I'd say more, but I want to keep this short. Excellent episode all around, and I can't wait for the next one.
Nice. I'll take Fernandez. My heart broke for Ro Laren. That holodeck scene with Picard had all the feels a 30-year follow-up to Preemptive Strike should have. Loved every second of it. Also liked that they are connecting plot A and plot B. That's going to be nice. And that's true. That's very true. There are a lot of broken plots in season 1 and season 2. So, yes, agreed. Can you take NY Rowlights, please, Jesse?
Yes, it was a bold choice killing Ro. We'll see if it works out for them. That didn't write that, but I just had to say it. Especially after the earlier fake out of Raffi killing Worf. Vulcans have got to be the scariest crime bosses of all. This explains why Geordi is not happy to see Picard, knowing that Jean-Luc has taken his daughter on the run with him. I love that the storyline is ramping up and hopefully not getting bogged down in the middle of the season. Yeah, that is the big concern. Like that, you know, with
Yeah.
every serialized season of Star Trek so far, and even the ones that I've liked more than most, like season 3 and 4 of Discovery, they do get very big pacing issues in the middle of the season.
True.
So
It's very
Yeah.
true. Yep. Eric, close us out, please, with Rude Parakeets.
Yes, of course. Rude Parakeet wrote, "Caca! This season has been all killer, no
Thanks,
filler so
Peanut
far.
Hamper.
At least in my opinion. The DS9 references, TNG crew, Janeway, name dropping. What's not to love? Ro Laren returning was a thrilling surprise. It's unfortunate she was killed off so soon, but I'm not nearly as upset as when I was when Hugh was killed off. P.S. Does anyone else get hungry when they see the changelings revert to their melted cheese pizza form?"
That's true.
And that's what I was going to
That's,
mention
like, so
earlier.
gross.
Yeah, that's so gross, but it does look a little bit like melted cheese
I
pizza.
could see that, but like as soon as I love that.
I really
VFX,
like
it's
it,
like,
too.
It's nasty,
It's
and
gross.
I love it.
Yeah, like it's like muscly and
Yeah.
It's like the ooze from Ghostbusters 2.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that was a marathon with the tech issues, but we made it through.
Yeah.
So much fun. Jessie, it has been an absolute blast talking about this episode with you. I am so glad that it was this one. I really am. Before we wrap things up, you got to plug your movie at the beginning of the show. And what else do you have going on? Plug away. Where can people find
Yeah.
you? What's going on?
I will try and make this quick, but you can find me at Jessie Gender on YouTube. Big reason that you can, I would say, check me out there is next week for my patrons and on Nebula, but then the week after that, I am doing a video that's releasing on my main channel called Explaining Star Trek as Simply as Possible. And that's the title of the video. The video is me having a whiteboard at the beginning, and it ends with a lot of string and an emotional breakdown. So the pitch of the video is like, I'm just going to try to explain the entire timeline of Star Trek, and it's a 2-hour-long video, so prepare yourself.
I love this.
Going to
Yeah,
be watching that one.
It's like a big comedy video, so that'll be a fun one. But then moving on and going into next month, I do have some videos that I'm trying to aim to make videos that are still going to be about difficult subjects, considering the way the world is right now, but in ways that are going to be more constructive rather than being like, let's take down this awful person, which is helpful to do those videos. But I want to start building things up more that feel more like, let's talk about dark stuff, but like what we can build from there. So I have a video about masculinity and trans identity and sort of trans people, especially trans femme people's relationship to masculinity. It's a very vulnerable video that I'm actually gonna be filming tomorrow. So please check out that. That'll be on my main channel. So if you like weird nerdy stuff or like deep introspective stuff, that hopefully teaches you and helps push back against other terrible stuff in the world right now, you can check out my channel there. For my reviews of Star Trek Picard and all my other like weird thoughts that I do, I have a secondary channel called Jessie Gender After Dark, which is my more like, off the cuff, just having fun discussions about TV shows, movies, and then also like LGBTQ issues as well over there. I've got some good interviews that I'm going to be going up on that channel with some trans writers and doing some cool books and things. So check out that. I did talk about my film Identities that is being funded by Nebula. And part of the thing that with Identities, especially as that ramps up towards filming this summer, I'm going to be focusing more and more on that. So I'm going to be able to take a little bit longer time between videos. And so the best way to support me being able to pay my bills while there is less time between videos is to support me either on Patreon or even better for yourself in terms of Identities. If you sign up for Nebula using my link, that you can go find on my channel. It does help me directly. That does help pay my bills. And it also helps fund the project and gets you, if you sign up for a year, Identities will be out within the year. So you sign up for Nebula, you'll be able to watch it when it comes out. And it does help me immediately right now to pay my bills. So yeah, that's all the stuff. So.
Yay! Awesome!
Hey.
I cannot wait for that whiteboard video. I'm
It's-
gonna watch it immediately.
It's editing. I'm almost done editing it now. It's fun. Let's just say that there is a 2 music videos within it.
Damn.
One is a love ballet to the Borg and Picard.
Wow. I am
Oh my God.
so here for it. Oh my God. Jessie, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. We will have you on again very soon.
Have me on
for
anytime.
sure.
Anytime you want to have me, just ask me. So
For sure. That is going to do it for this one. Make sure to send in any questions you have about the extremely sexist yet amazing Star Trek pilot. The Cage 2, I have it right here, openpike.com/join us. They'll be answering all your questions on their pod that I will be joining tomorrow. Make sure to send all of your Star Trek trivia, even though she doesn't need it because she rocks at it already, to MC. She will kick all of your asses in trivia, by the way. But send her the good vibes and anything that she might need to know anyway, because you just never know. So she can kick ass on Trexperts quiz. That's going to do it for this one. We will be back next week. Bill Smith from Trek Geeks Network is going to be joining us to review episode 306. That is going to be a blast. So make sure to tune in for that one. For Jessie Gender, for Hawk, for MC, for Eric, I am Julian. I say live long and prosper. Majram. Good night. I fucked up and didn't do the video outro, so I'm doing it again. Good night.
Thanks for tuning into our podcast today. If you want to keep the hailing frequencies open, you can subscribe on Apple and Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. Like what you hear? Put in a good word with Starfleet and leave us a 5-star review.